Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and I lost. LGD played quite poorly today, um, and the only thing that I could think about is the potential for a certain jungler to have made his return in a Peanut disguise, because Peanut has not played to the level that we should expect. Um, for most of for all of the group stage, really. I mean, Peanut has had individual games where they played very strong, but I mean, if Peanut's getting Graves and losing, there's some big problems in terms of how they're playing the game, uh, especially when he has played things like Lilia. Peanut has consistently been poked out around objectives and is just not like placing a high enough value on his own health so that he can get in and out of these fights. It's just really bizarre. It's difficult to comprehend why that would be happening. I think part of that has to do with um, Peanut's. Peanut is obviously the focal point of LGD, and going into Worlds, I was hopeful that LGD would get some like good performances from Longshi, um, Kramer, and Mark, but nothing great really came from those players on a consistent basis. And my criticism of LGD was Kramer is not a carry player. We've known that for a long time. Atlas on the cast today said that in the LPL this year, Kramer, really played more like a carry. Not true at all. 0% true. Anybody who watched LGD's matches would know that that's it's just incorrect. And it's not. I don't know why he said it. Maybe that's what he was told to say. Maybe that's based off just looking at statistics. But anybody who watches those games, I think it'd be almost impossible to give that argument any credence. So yeah, just weird. It was also interesting because we saw exactly why a pick like Renekton is okay, even when it's in a bad situation. And they had the wrong side of this argument too. So they were talking about how Renekton has a difficult time getting into the backline. Getting into the backline is not the problem. The problem is being able to be effective while in the backline. Because if the Renekton is even or even behind, there are a lot of times when Renekton's behind, but if the other team misplays around the team fight and allows the Renekton to get onto the AD carry with like an empowered W. Renekton isn't going to one shot the AD carry, but he'll do like 50 to 75% of their health, and then obviously the AD carry needs to run for their life at that point in the team fight. So really strange casting at certain points today. Um, but I guess the bigger story is how the games went, so we can just discuss those real quick. Let me refresh this just so I know it's the right stuff. All right. So I wanted TSM to win that first game. And this is from a game theory perspective. I knew that TSM would be pretty low owned. And I wanted to be on them just in case they went 1-2 and had like a ceiling performance in one of their wins, because I felt like a TSM versus 100 Thieves game was coming when both teams would have like 20 something kills. It happens every once in a while for TSM, and it hasn't happened in a while, so I'm kind of betting on that happening, and that didn't happen today. So Fnatic took care of TSM pretty easily. I'm pretty sure that was a game where Fnatic had Graves. Graves is a good champion. You heard it here first. LGD against Genji. I was on LGD. I knew that they could compete with Genji. They did a good job in that game of competing, but ultimately Genji was able to win that one. Then Genji against TSM. TSM had a lead on Genji, but Genji was the better team and was able to eventually outscale and win. Fnatic beat LGD, and this was a concerning game. I think LGD played that really poorly. And Fnatic played well. I'm not trying to take any credit away from Fnatic. Like, going into this, did I think that LGD was the better team? Yes. Has Fnatic played much better at this point in time? Definitely. They definitely did a lot in the group stage to show that their mentality is the right way to play. And that's one thing that I have. That's the thing I like the best about Fnatic is they I think I don't know this for sure, so it could just be complete nonsense. But for a team like Fnatic, and for any team that has gone to Worlds before, as like a collective unit, it makes a lot of sense to me that those kinds of teams from a Western region or from any region really are more willing to just fight and like play as if play as if play as if they can win the game, which it sounds bizarre to say, but like TSM a lot of the time doesn't play like they think that they can win the game. They just feel like it's inevitable that they're going to lose for some reason. But Fnatic always has interesting ways of trying to carve out edges against very strong teams and very strong opponents, which is respectable. And I it's always a weird spot because I'm like on my channel I say things about the different teams and like which region is stronger than the other region. And like I do all these team rankings and stuff like that. So for most of the year, I was higher on Fnatic than most people in terms of Fnatic in their own region. But then we get to an international tournament, and I don't know if it's just the people change their mind or the people want to make a different argument, but then they start saying Fnatic is better than some of these other teams from the eastern regions, and that's where I have to kind of be like, slow down. That's kind of ridiculous. With that being said, Fnatic against LGD was always going to be the closest that Fnatic gets to being better than a Chinese team, because LGD is the weakest Chinese team, which is no surprise at all. So if I was looking back at what I think about the individual performances from Fnatic, I think Bwipo played pretty well, which is not surprising to me. I said Bwipo is probably my favorite top laner from EU. I like his playstyle. I like how he approaches the game. I like his deep champion pool. I like their macro focus, and I like how he's willing to just go in and fight. Selfmade did a lot in this series to cement himself as a carry jungler. I definitely think that the fact that they were winless with Graves in Europe has little to do with Selfmade's ability to play those champions, and it was probably just team losses. I would need to go back and look at those games to confirm that, but he's good enough to play Graves, and that's why people make such a big deal about draft and like why you can win or lose a draft, because if you get Graves, which is a very strong champion, Senna, which is a very strong champion, it puts yourself in a spot where you have multiple win conditions within a game, and it's just very important. I don't know any other way to kind of emphasize that point, but they do a good job at that. Fnatic really does do a good job with that. So it'll be fun to watch them in the next round. I'm probably not going to pick them to beat whoever they play in the next round, but it should be good for DraftKings. So I'll probably be on the other team and have like primary stacks from that other match. Okay, so that was Selfmade. Nemesis, people are going to overreact to Nemesis' performance today. I think that Nemesis did a great job. There was the Oriana game. Nemesis had like 7 kills, 8 kills. That's really more of a function of how the team fight goes than like his ability to create that. He didn't really create those opportunities for himself. They were a result of a team-on-team collision around an objective where he was able to get an ultimate onto a group of players that were clumped together. Almost any mid laner can do that at the World Championship level. Which isn't meant to be a negative towards Nemesis. It's not a positive. Like, you can't say that he separates himself positively from other players because of this thing that he did. Definitely still a reckless-centered team. And Selfmade is not going to be allowed to play Graves, I don't think, anymore. Which is interesting because teams probably thought they could leave it open and it would be fine. In their match against Gen G, it didn't really seem impactful. So teams will have to consciously pick ban against Graves, where they allow Selfmade to play Graves because they have a counter prepared for it. But Selfmade plays Graves, plays Evelynn, plays Hecarim. I'm not sure about the Nidalee and the Lilia. I'm sure that he plays them, but I don't know if he's as impactful as these other champions. And it kind of makes sense. Like, I think Lilia is probably the closest to those other 3 champions I just named in terms of it's like you want to go in and be the aggressor. Nidalee can go back and forth depending on the situation in the game. So yeah, moving forward, I think Genji did a pretty good job showing that they will also be competitive in the next round. I think that Rascal played decently, nothing special. Clid, BDD didn't really do anything that special either, in my opinion. Ruler did a lot in this series, and it's funny because I'm generally very critical of AD carries getting too much credit. I feel like Ruler is one of the AD carries who deserves the amount of credit they get, and I'm not sure that's a good thing when we go up against these other teams that have really strong mid laners, really strong junglers. I know that BDD is probably one of the best mid laners in the world, but he doesn't do the same things that a lot of other mid laners do right now. Like the champions that he's playing aren't necessarily the best to compete in the mid lane, but they do help his team because his team plays around Ruler. So it's like having a pass first point guard as opposed to a scoring point guard. BDD is more of a pass first mid laner, meaning he's playing for his teammates. Kind of similar to Nemesis. He's just a better version of Nemesis, in my opinion. And he has champions where he can go completely insane. So there's that. And then Life did okay. I mean, it's really... If Ruler is doing well, Life is contributing somehow. So you got to give Life that credit as well. But that's basically it. So, interesting group. LGD definitely disappointed. Everyone says that TSM really disappointed, but what did you really think was going to happen? Who was TSM supposed to take games off of consistently? It reminds me a lot of playing golf. So yesterday I played golf. I love playing golf. It's very fun. I enjoy being out there. I enjoy making all the shots. When I hit a good shot, I feel great. When I hit a bad shot, I don't go insane because I'm not that good. Like, I'm not a scratch golfer. Why would I get upset with myself for hitting a bad shot? I just don't understand that. So that's the reason I'm saying this, is because it's all about your expectations and managing expectations. If you went into this thinking that TSM had a chance to get out of groups and compete for a championship, you're out of your mind. You're just not paying attention to how good TSM actually is relative to the other regions in the world. And you can't like flame TSM for playing poorly, when that was the most likely outcome. Just like the most likely outcome for me when I play golf is to shoot in the 90s. It's most likely going to happen. If I play really well, good job, Pikel. You did a good job on the golf course today. If I shoot over 100, it's not like, oh my god, he disappointed everyone. It's like, I'm right in that range. That's probably where I'm going to end up most of the time, is in the 90s, and generally the 90s. I don't really hit in the hundreds that often. Had some really good shots yesterday. But that's basically it. Manage your expectations. Stop being unreasonable. And you'll be happier. Just in general. I think that's a good life lesson for everyone. Oh, well, I guess we're not done. So this is the lineup that came in first place. It chopped 20 ways. I had a Fnatic and Gen G lineup, but I had it a little reversed. So I had Self-Made instead of Clid, which was a 3-point differential. I had BDD instead of Nemesis, which was 16 points. And then Fnatic instead of Genji, which was 20 points. So, yeah. Not much else to say. I knew it was going to be pretty chalky. These types of contests are necessarily chalky. So, let's see. Reckless was 40%. Hillsong 23%. Let's see if I can find some other players. So Peanut's a little lower than I thought he would be. TSM was obviously the lowest because it was very unlikely they made it out of groups. But now I'm finished. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.